Welcome, everyone, to Catholic Sunday Scriptures in Context. This is a ministry of the Augustinian Order and St. Paul Parish. Today we are focusing on the fifth Sunday of Lent, March 16, 17, and obviously because it's March 17th, we want to remember St. Patrick, and on Tuesday, St. Joseph. Happy feast day to all the Patricks and Josephs out there. Today's first reading comes from the prophet Jeremiah. And it must be noted that Jeremiah wrote during the most tumultuous years in the history of ancient Israel. So there had been a king named Josiah, who was considered by the religious leaders of Israel to be one of the greatest kings because he changed the Jewish religion and gave a lot of priority to worshiping the one God. He put in new dietary laws. He raised the position of the high priest, and it was called the Great Reform. But Josiah died in battle, and their hopes were shattered, and Josiah's son was the exact opposite of Josiah, and the religion went into a tailspin. And that's what made Jeremiah believe that human efforts were incapable of reform. And so there needed to be a new covenant, that the law can't be on the outside in tablets, but must be internal in your heart. And that's why we have this change of heart. The law must be interiorized, according to Jeremiah. The hearts of the people would be transformed so that they would know God. And this is the way, like the Blessed Mother said, I don't know man. This is an intimate knowing. It's not just an awareness. It's knowing God fully. And the great trait of this new covenant would be forgiveness, which obviously is the message that Jesus came to bring. So, in the days are coming, says the Lord, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel. I will place my law within them and write it upon their hearts. For I will forgive their evil doing and remember their sin no more. So, our second reading is from the letter to the Hebrews. It's an unknown author. It's certainly not Paul. The language just tells us that it's not written as Paul would have written it, the way his syntax and grammar. So it's probably a Jewish Christian who had an Hellenistic background, had a lot of Greek knowledge. And his focus is on the high priest, that Jesus is now the new high priest who sits at the right hand of God. And this section of the letter focuses on the quality of Jesus as high priest. The high priest always belonged to the tribe of Levi, but Jesus was not of the tribe of Levi. So the author is making a case for why Jesus is the true high priest. And what made him so was that his suffering brought him to perfection. It was that he was tried, tested, and passed the test, and the suffering proved that he truly was the great high priest. In the days when Jesus Christ was in the flesh, he offered prayers and supplications with loud cries and tears to the one who was able to save him from death, and he was heard because of his reverence. Son though he was, he learned obedience from what he suffered, and when he was made perfect, he became the source of eternal salvation for all who obey him. And our gospel is from chapter 12 of John. And this is when the Greeks want to get to know Jesus. So Philip, we believe, was one of the disciples who was fluent in Greek. And that's probably why the Greeks came to him. And then he interceded for them coming to Jesus. And for John, the word to see, sight, light, is belief. And in this meeting, Jesus, we don't know if Jesus met with the Greek people, but this willingness on their part, or this desire on their part to see Jesus, was enough for John to put this story together. And this meeting was an indication that his hour had come, because he was going to draw all people to himself when he was lifted up, and the lifting up being the cross. And in John's gospel, he does not have a moment in the Garden of Gethsemane, but John uses the language of that Gethsemane moment to write this story here. And when Jesus says his time has come, he doesn't use the Greek word chronos, which would mean like an hour, like chronology, but he uses kairos, which is the word for a moment. So an hour, chronos, versus kairos, which is the moment of his being lifted up and drawing people to himself. And then that famous phrase in this gospel that the seed must die in order to give nourishment to others, the grain of wheat. And so, the Greeks would like to see Jesus, so they were coming to believe in him. And there were many Greeks who admired the monotheism of the Jewish people. They did not abide by the law of circumcision nor the dietary laws, but they appreciated that there is one God, and the Jewish fidelity to this belief in one God. And so here the word hour is not the word chronos, but kairos. And unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just a grain of wheat. And, here is the Gethsemane part. What should I say, Father? Save me from this hour. And then we hear the voice coming from heaven, I have glorified it and will glorify it again. What's he talking about when he said, I have glorified it? We think it's maybe the baptism, maybe the transfiguration, which isn't mentioned in John's gospel. But I will glorify it again, referring to the resurrection. And when I am lifted up from the earth, I will draw everyone to myself. He said this indicating the kind of death that he would die. Please pray for peace in Ukraine and in the Holy Land. And if you think this could be helpful to someone, please pass it on. Thank you very much.